Good morning and welcome to today's video. I'm using this photograph of myself, this Craftwork cards paper, which is absolutely lovely. It's called Venetian, and I've had this in my stash for a while. And I'm using these 3 squares to make this page. It's going to be a monochrome blue page. So what I've done is in each of the 6 papers in this Venetian paper pack, I have cut squares, and I am going to be layering these down randomly on the page, just trying to find how I want this laid out exactly. So not putting the same patterns together and sort of trying to spread them out. 2 of the pages are quite a block dark blue colour with a small pattern, so I'm making sure that they are spread fairly evenly on the page and around where I want the photograph to go. So I bought this paper pack quite a while ago, and I was sorting out my pages just the other day and going through and making sure that I've got photographs. I keep a photograph of all my pages in a album so that I can go through if I'm looking at pictures, because I don't scrapbook page at a time or even a year at a time. I kind of jump around when I find some paper that I quite like, and I'll think, oh, I've got a photograph of whenever to do this page with. Just whatever inspiration takes me. So now that I've laid these down, I am just coming in here and going to distress the edges of all of these squares. I won't keep the video running for the whole session. We're just using my Tim Holtz distress tool. So now that I've distressed all of them, I am using Faded Jeans Distress ink to distress the edges on each one of them, just to give the squares a little bit more pop when they go down on the page. So I decided that I quite like the page as it is, but it does need a little bit of something. So I'm going to use the packaging technique on the page, and I'm drawing a border around the edge. But because I didn't want to take all of them off and then relay them down, I actually got out another piece of white paper, and I am using a Shimmers Ultramarine paint. And I am just mixing this up, and then I'm using this on the background with the package technique just to add a little bit more texture and a little bit more pop to the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this down on the page where I think it needs to go, and then I'm going to dry it off and move my squares one at a time onto the page, so that they're back in the same sort of order. This was the easiest way of getting this done without having to pull everything off and rearrange it. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I will actually take a photograph of it so that I can layer them pretty much in the same order. I do have, and it's just occurred to me, I do have a neat tool that I bought a very long time ago, which is actually a board where you can put it down on your page, frame the 12 by 12, and it's actually a light sticky pads on it, so you can actually just pick up everything on the page. I will find out what that's called and pop it in the notes below. But I always tend to forget to use it, and it's literally only just as I'm doing the voiceover now for the video that I thought actually I could have used that to lift everything up. Yes, there we go. There's a tool that I have that I always forget to use until afterwards, and that would have come in handy for this page. Anyway, now I've put them back on the back together. I did decide to kind of change them around a little bit. So on the right hand side I've got like a blue triangle going from the bottom right hand side up into the middle, that one that I'm grabbing there, and then it kind of goes out again to the left hand side of the page, the right hand side at the top of the page, and I felt that that balanced the page quite nicely. When I'm just gluing these down, they're moving them around a little bit more. I did find that because I distressed the edges, I did have a lot of loose flyaway pieces of paper, sort of paper dust over this page, so I was trying to move those little bits out of the way so that I don't stick them down on my page. But it was quite a messy page. I did find that I needed to clean my desk off afterwards. At one point I did have to stop myself from blowing on the page to get rid of some of them. Of course, with all of the squares loose, that just would have blown all of my paper off of here, all of my little squares off of here, and that would have been an absolute nightmare. Once I think I've finished sticking all of these down, I do give it a little bit of a blow to get rid of some of the little bits and pieces, and I find that one piece of paper was not stuck down. And when I did it, there you go, it went running off my page and onto the back of my desk there. You'll notice my desk is a little bit messier than normal. I have been moving things around, and I've actually ordered myself a new desk, but I have to wait until it's in stock on the 9th of October before they will deliver it. But I've ordered myself a new table, a bigger table, so that I can keep my desk a little bit more tidier. So I have I have an extension to the back of my desk, but I've taken that away and put that in my office, as I'm now seem to be permanently working from home, and I needed that space for my work, so I've had to forego it here in my scrapbooking room. But I have, as I say, got a new desk that has been ordered, and I just have to wait for it to be delivered. So until that, I'm working on a makeshift desk. Well, I'm working on a little desk, and the back of my desk is actually another set of cupboards where I've had to put my lights and things, so I apologise that it looks a little bit more messy, and I've had to tighten up the frame in the video as well a little bit, so I am making sure that I try to at least show the edge, the bottom of what I'm doing. Here I'm just distressing and inking the sheet that I decided to put behind my photograph. So once I stick that down and pop it on the page, I realise that I'm going to need something just in that middle section. So I just got a piece of foam here. It is just a normal foam sheets that I tend to cut into sometimes and do some die cutting, which is why it was that funny shape. And I'm just cutting off this little bit here so that I can stick it on my photograph. Of course, with these squares and the fact that they've been distressed, my photograph was never going to sit flat on this page without bumping up that little bit there. So I'm going to bump that up so that I can put in a little journaling card behind the photograph, as there's not a lot of room for journaling. Now, I absolutely love this mask. Given that this photograph was taken during my honeymoon in 2009, and we were in Venice, this paper pack was bought specifically to do my honeymoon, and then I realised when I was filing all of my papers away that I have actually only done one page for my honeymoon, so I am doing this one. This paper pack suited the photograph, I thought, because I am eating squid ink pasta, which was a little bit bluer than I thought it would be. I thought it would be more black when it came, and it was just very odd to be thinking that I was eating blue pasta. So I thought that I would journal that. So I'm going to write on my journaling card with my computer and do some writing on the computer, and then print that or stick that onto the journaling card later. And the mask, I couldn't, in all honesty, cut that off and use it on the page and just poke it behind. I had to fussy cut it, and I'm going to put it down in the corner of my photograph because it was just so pretty. It's so lovely. I love the feathers and the masks on this paper. And actually the one right down the bottom of the mask there is cut perfectly to the two pages, two squares, the one to the top left hand side of my photograph and the one that's going to go directly underneath this mask. You can perfectly see the masks on it, so it is a quite nice paper pack. and I am here using some liquid pearls just to highlight some of the aspects in this mask. There were a couple of dark blue jewels hanging from the side where your cheeks would be, and a couple on the nose, and they were perfectly highlight with the liquid pearls. And there was this aqua colour along the eyebrows, so I had to make that pop, make that stand out. So I'm just keep cutting down just a little bit off this, because I don't really want the journaling card sticking out past where my photograph is. I want it just to hide and just the tiniest edge to be showing. And again, I am distressing that and also inking that as well. One thing to remember when you do this, I'm pushing off the little shards that have come off the paper. That one thing to remember, that if you ink something like this, those little shards fall off, and they fall off with ink on them, so you've got to be careful not to get that on your page, or you'll get streaks from it when you try to brush it off. I am using a Jelly Bean alpha set here to put the words "Just Go For It" on my page. I've put them higgledy-piggledy, like I have the squares, and kind of made it look like it's another square. And now I am going to be sticking that mask down now that it's dry, and also putting some enamel dots on the page here, because I'm making this page for a challenge, the October challenge for CITC 2021. So CITC stands for Crop in the Country. It's a retreat that I go to once a year over in Swindon. It's a fantastic retreat. You go on a Friday night and spend all weekend there scrapbooking and making some absolutely lovely pages. And all the way through the year, they do a challenge each month. And this month's challenge is to use enamel dots. So here we go. I think I'm putting enough down on this page. I've chosen 2 different types of enamel dots. I've got some really lovely domed ones in the dark blue, aqua colour and a light blue. And I'm also adding in some glitzy blue ones. And of course, as my page is almost finished, I'm going to be adding my little cat. So that is the end of today's video. So literally we've just used a little bit of paint to do some background, and then use some paper pack and a distresser and some distress ink. But I like the way the page has turned out. It's been a nice, gentle, easy page for today, but it turned out very striking, and I hope you've enjoyed watching my video, and I will see you again next week.